Good journey, everyone. Welcome to Space Oats Live, a Star Wars podcast. I am the Crucial Crew member, and we got some fun stuff to talk about this week. Got a little bit of not long ago in this galaxy. We have some inspirational Star Wars um, films to talk about, and this kind of goes in with Star Wars Celebration, kind of in preparation for Star Wars Celebration, and yeah, just something that was actually released today as well. Some more Andor season 2 info. So we will get this started. Uh, Welcome. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing great? It's been kind of an interesting week with Star Wars. Not too much happening, but but then with that, a good amount happening as well. Um, just getting so excited about Star Wars Celebration. Like that's the big thing. Star Wars Celebration coming up. My first Star Wars Celebration, 2017, wearing that shirt. And I've been to every one since, and it's been fantastic. It's been amazing. Um, it's such a great group of fans to be a part of and just get together. Everybody who loves Star Wars to celebrate Star Wars. This time for 3 days in Japan. Crazy, right? I can't wait. I can't wait. It's just going to be fantastic. Can't wait for that. Anyway, let's get going. Let's do a little bit of not long ago in this galaxy first. How about that? You know, I do this usually each day. I do a post where I go live, um, mostly trying to go live, talking about something in Star Wars history. And today we're going to actually kind of go into something that happened with Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels kind of finishing up for us in 2018 with the 90-minute episode, give or take, with commercials, but 90-minute finale of Star Wars Rebels. The 90-minute finale was a two-part episode, and starting with A Fool's Hope, and then the other episode. Man, I can't even remember what the other episode was called. I totally forgot to write it down. I'm gonna look it up real quick. It was entitled. Yeah, that's not it. That's right. Family reunion and farewell. Um, so yeah, that was the final episodes of season 4, which was that was it for Rebels. 4 seasons. I always forget that it was only 4 seasons. It felt like it was more because there was just so much content in Star Wars Rebels. It was a fantastic series. One that I was just not so sure about because Disney was doing this one, and it became probably. I mean, it's right up there with Clone Wars for me. I think in a way for me it's better because 4 seasons, and again, so much involved in this, so much story, intensity, and just great evolution of characters. A smaller group of characters. Clone Wars had so much; it was so big, and it was so fantastic. But Rebels just it had some deep moments, and with the series and how it summed up, it was just so concise, worked so well together. But yeah, so March 5th, 2018, the 90-minute episode again. A family reunion farewell, and then the preceding episode before that, A Fool's Hope, which took us in the finale to the finale of everything with Rebels there, kind of giving us a little post Return of the Jedi epilogue, which was kind of cool, and then setting us up with some possibility of those characters' returns, which we do have them returning now in Ahsoka, season 1, and somewhere else in the Star Wars content. Don't know when they're going to show up. In the near future, in the far future, who knows? But it aired on Disney XD And one of the really fantastic things about this episode, or these episodes, these finales, was that Ian McDiarmid actually came back to reprise his role as the voice of Emperor Palpatine, which was pretty awesome to have him actually do the voice. It was really, it's just really amazing. So many characters that were just great characters, and you see the fate of these characters happen, especially with Governor Price um, and Tarkin and Ezra. Amazing. Now we already knew that like by this time Kanan was already gone, but still, nonetheless, an amazing an amazing finale. Hondo returning in this as well, which was fantastic to be able to see him come back to help out, and some other recurring characters coming back as well. But of course Hondo, which we don't really know where Hondo is right now, and I would love to see Hondo come out in live action at some point. It would be fantastic because he was a friend of Ezra's, and who knows, maybe he'll show up to help his friend Ezra at some point in live action. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Rex also recurring in this role, and just some fantastic characterization and storyline completion here, and then also character development. Like I said, just fantastic, fantastic. The last we saw the Ghost for a while until we got to Ahsoka, so pretty amazing. Little tease for Jason Syndulla as well at the end of the episode, which we know he is now definitely a character that has been coming back and is force sensitive, as we found out in Ahsoka, which is pretty amazing as well. So that was our not long ago in this galaxy. We're going to actually go into, I forgot to actually put this up there, but I mean, what a great little poster here that I just, I gotta share this. It's Star Wars Rebels. I mean, the final crew of Star Wars Rebels, at least partial after Ezra's departure as well. Just amazing. Really, really good series. I love having them come back too. So we're going to actually move into a little bit of inspiration for Star Wars, actually. We're going to actually kind of get into, we got Star Wars Celebration Japan coming up, right? And we know how much Japanese influence had on Star Wars. StarWars.com had a really cool article. If you are not familiar with George Lucas's inspiration for Star Wars with Japanese films, there were a lot of other inspirations as well, but Japanese film influence, especially from Akira Kurosawa, was a big part of George Lucas's filmmaking. And if you're not familiar with Akira Kurosawa's films, if you are a Star Wars fan, I highly recommend watching these films because you do see hints of Star Wars, and you see hints of other creative works of Star Wars even now coming from Akira Kurosawa. And this is a really cool article because I've watched a lot of Akira Kurosawa's films and not really realizing, some of the actually newer content that has been pulling from those films. And then once I read this article, it's like, oh yeah, that did kind of, reminisce this storyline and things like that. But one of the biggest films that you can probably contribute, which is probably one of the first and foremost films that you should watch, in my opinion. These are in order the way they are in StarWars.com, but I almost feel like that they are the order that you should really focus on these films if you really want the most inspiration for Star Wars. It almost is like, to me, it's like a top 5 of George Lucas and his inspiration, like which films inspired him the most, and then maybe which films we see inspirations in going forward in Star Wars content. But so there was 5 films listed in that inspired Star Wars storytellers, and this was on StarWars.com as well. And Yeah, recommended Akira Kurosawa films. It's basically was kind of a recommended article for Star Wars Celebration Japan. But honestly, if you're just looking for some cool samurai films, Japanese films to watch that have great um, movie historical aspect to them, um, they're great to watch anytime. And you don't have to be going to Star Wars Celebration. You could just be a lover of Star Wars. You could be a lover of Japanese films, samurai films, whatever. Especially with series like Shogun now a big thing. Go back, watch these older films. They're fantastic. You probably will see inspiration from these newer series from these older films. The reason why this photo is up because um, one of the points from The Hidden Fortress, which we're going to talk about first, which was one of Akira Kurosawa's films, one of the biggest influences on Star Wars. George Lucas mentioned it many times in different interviews. The Hidden Fortress being a big inspiration for how Star Wars played out and certain content and certain characters of Star Wars. So, Hidden Fortress was actually um, released in 1958, so a very, very old film. But again, George Lucas, um, almost 20 years later, well, maybe 15 years later, when he started to think about Star Wars, really drew off of these films. And he probably started thinking about film using this content in his filmmaking um, like 10 years after these films. So George Lucas kind of grew up on these films. Uh, this is kind of probably like when he was a teenager and thinking about filmmaking and yeah, like really thinking about these movies and what he wanted to as far as bringing the inspiration to what he wanted to write uh, in in making films himself. But in Hidden Fortress, the really cool, funny thing that kind of correlates to C-3PO and R2-D2 were the two peasants in Hidden Fortress, which were now in Kira Kurosawa's films, they were seeking fortune. Um, but we know that R2-D2 and C-3PO aren't really seeking fortune in their travels, but yeah, they agree to instead in the film in Hidden Fortress, they agree to escort these two individuals, and unknown to them, these two individuals are a princess and a general, and they escort them across enemy lines. So in a way, even though C-3PO and R2-D2 aren't the main characters that are, in a way, they're kind of, assisting, but they are assisting characters similar to these peasants in Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress. Because, again, a princess and a general, you can almost say that, a princess obviously correlates to Princess Leia in A New Hope. And we know that Princess Leia, when she sent her message to Obi-Wan Kenobi, it was General Kenobi, right? So pretty interesting to see that connection with that as well. Um, and we know that, they are obviously moving through and sneaking around enemy territory among the Death Star, trying to get to the Rebel base. So a lot of hints into this and mimicking this storytelling from Hidden Fortress. So pretty fantastic film and a lot of fun. Those two peasants kind of lighten the mood in that movie, which C-3PO and R2-D2 we know do as well. So pretty fantastic to watch that movie because that is probably the biggest influence on George Lucas. That being Hidden Fortress. Seven Samurai was another one that is fantastic. Another one of my favorites. Another one that George Lucas mentioned as well. We know that George Lucas, he started kind of creating the Clone Wars and the stories of the Clone Wars, but Seven Samurai not only had input or influence on the Star Wars movies themselves, but also in some of the episodes in the Clone Wars with some of the other writers. And George Lucas, he kind of created and produced the Clone Wars to an extent, but there were different writers and things. So knowing George Lucas and knowing the inspirations that he had, this is where we started to see other creators follow suit in looking at these films and taking story elements and bringing them to other stories of Star Wars. Seven Samurai was one of the older of Akira Kurosawa's films. This one came out in 1954. And Seven Samurai was very action-packed, just like the Clone Wars was. And it was a tale of a village hiring a group of samurai to help protect them from invading bandits. Now, there's an episode of the Clone Wars that pretty much mimics this, and there's a couple other ones that kind of hint to this as well, and other Star Wars episodes in other series that kind of hint to this element. But the one that really, really comes to mind is the episode from the Clone Wars, season 2, which was called Bounty Hunters. And this is where Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka partner with a group of bounty hunters to protect a village on Felucia from pirates, which was a very direct pull from Seven Samurai. Pretty amazing. That same kind of story element taken from this film years ago and brought, again, same way George Lucas was looking at these films as inspiration and bringing them to a galaxy far, far away. Pretty fantastic. There was another, even more recent, again, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, creating more live action for Disney with The Mandalorian. And The Mandalorian, again, kind of that old Western feel, but also pulling from these elements of these Akira Kurosawa films and almost directly, but indirectly, pulling from Seven Samurai in a couple of episodes. One of them that comes to mind is in season 1. It is the episode Sanctuary, where Din Djarin and Cara Dune fight off the raiders that are threatening the krill farmers on Sorgan. Again, hired guns, helping a small village, protecting him from these invaders or these bandits. So very similar to this story in Seven Samurai. There is, again, more inspiration from Seven Samurai in a lot of different episodes of different series, very similar to this, where characters are hired to protect a village or go out and do this type of protection of others in that sort of selflessness. So pretty awesome. Yeah, so moving on to the next one. Which we've seen some pretty, again, some really cool Star Wars artist works of, not directly into the canon of Star Wars, but Star Wars feel stories in the Star Wars Visions, where creators have animated some amazing pieces with Star Wars. And of course, with these Japanese animation companies, of course, there's going to be some direct and indirect pull from Akira Kurosawa films. The next film that we're kind of talking about is Yojimbo, and this was a 1961 film from Akira Kurosawa. George Lucas also mentioned this one as one of his inspirations. One of the big things that about this movie is Yojimbo also kind of pulls kind of like the Seven Samurai, where it's centering on a small village in trouble. But this time, the hero of the story is a Ronin, which is a samurai with no master. This is pretty much almost a direct mimic of, Yojimbo is pulled right into Star Wars Visions Season 1, one of my favorite episodes of all time, that being The Duel. And in the behind-the-scenes featurette for Star Wars Visions, called Filmmaker Focus, for The Duel specifically, creators from Star Wars Visions, The Duel, spoke about how their story paid homage to several Japanese films, including Yojimbo, Seven Samurai, Lone Wolf, Lone Wolf and Cub. So definitely outright, this Ronin Jedi, or maybe not even a Jedi, Force user, is protecting this village. Again, a very amazing piece that short, and again, you see hints of this happening in other Star Wars stories as well. So Yojimbo, amazing film as well, that has a lot of influence on Star Wars projects and characters. The fourth one is going to take us into even more recent content from Star Wars. And this one is Rashomon. This was from 1950. This is, again, one of the earlier films from Akira Kurosawa. I think this is the oldest one that's being mentioned. And this one tells a story of an assault and murder from multiple points of view. I've always loved films and series that do these multiple points of view storytelling, where we get an episode that looks from one direction, from one point of view, and then we get another episode from another point of view. This is why I actually loved The Acolyte with those episodes, and that did that. But one of the things about The Last Jedi that a lot of people don't really realize with The Last Jedi, and maybe kind of it gets overlooked, as we got different points of view right into The Last Jedi filming and storytelling within the flashbacks, with Luke and Kylo Ren, which was fantastic. And it really does give a lot of depth, because there's kind of like 3 points of view in The Last Jedi itself when it comes to that story, because you have Luke's side of the story, you have Kylo's side of the story, and then you kind of have your own side of the story, which you maybe is in the middle somewhere, because we don't really know, how much one is, pulling it, that it's not my fault, this is what happened, and the other one, not my fault, this is what happened. But you kind of hear both sides, and maybe you draw your own conclusions of what happened. But Rian Johnson specifically showed the audience different perspectives on that fateful night, shortly before Luke's Jedi Academy was destroyed. The other episode, again, like I said, the 2 episodes in The Acolyte, which did this, they did it in full episodes, different episodes, that being the episode Destiny and then the episode Night, which used that similar method of storytelling, showing a deadly encounter between the group of Jedi and the Witch Coven on Brendok, from several different perspectives, from the Jedi's perspective of how they perceived it as a threat, and then also from the sisters' perspective, specifically. I'm just thinking my cat's gonna like knock things over in a minute, but anyway. So, and I think my lights are gonna go out in a minute. I keep forgetting that, but I may have stopped that. I can't remember if I did or not. I always forget about this before. Yep, there it goes. Every night I keep forgetting this. That's the thing about doing this in my. There we go. They're back on. So yeah, Acolyte, this is one of my favorite parts of Acolyte. Again, I love the Acolyte. I thought it was fantastic. And I love the storytelling and how it was done. And why shouldn't it have been amazing storytelling? I mean, we're pulling from the same different inspirations that George Lucas did. And it worked. It did work. It worked fantastically. And I just love that type of storytelling. And it really gives it depth. It gives you thought. When you're watching them, again, it kind of makes the audience really draw their own conclusions of who is correct, or is there a middle, is there a third perspective which could be your own perspective on the story. Maybe taking a little bit of the one side and a little bit of the other side and trying to find the middle ground, which is really amazing to be able to do that. The final, I think I'm on the final one, right? Maybe. Again, we're just getting closer and closer to newest releases, but Kagemusha, the Shadow Warrior. This was one of Akira Kurosawa's last films in 1980. And again, one of his later works, Kagemusha, features a thief recruited to be the decoy of an aging warlord. We see a lot of this in Star Wars, a lot of this in a lot of different storytelling. Decoy characters where you think it's this character, but it's somebody to kind of throw you off. And one of the funnier episodes of this that maybe pulled from this story and brought it to the Clone Wars was season 4 episode Shadow Warriors of the Clone Wars, where Jar Jar Binks doubled for a Gungan boss in a nod to that Kagemusha character. Dave Filoni also has pointed to Kagemusha's dream-like sequence in the movie as an inspiration while filming the reunion of Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano in The World Between Worlds in Star Wars Ahsoka. So again, great filmmakers doing Star Wars, finding this inspiration in the same areas that George Lucas himself did. So I highly recommend watching some Akira Kurosawa films. I can tell you that I've watched Hidden Fortress many times, Seven Samurai, Yojimbo. The ones that I probably am going to rewatch again because I don't remember them very well. I know I've seen them, but I don't remember them very well, is Rashomon and Kagemusha. Really Kagemusha, because I don't think I've watched it since Ahsoka came out. So I don't really remember that dream sequence very well, but I really want to go back and watch it now and see these parallels that Dave Filoni has hinted at that he pulled from for that dream sequence, and to see the similarities, to see the pulls from that. And, maybe I'll see some other inspiration in Star Wars works that we've seen since then, or with some of those other films that I just didn't realize the first time I've watched them. So pretty fantastic with those films and how they are inspirations from these Akira Kurosawa films. They are amazing. Now, if you've kind of been hidden under a rock, you may not have realized that we have had a Andor Season 2 trailer released. We've also had a Andor Season 2 poster as well. But we have another poster. This is a little bit of it. This is not the full poster. It's just a little, the top portion of that poster. But it is a new poster for kind of more of an official poster, honestly, that has arrived for Season 2. It has more characters. If you remember, the first one was just Cassian kind of overlaid with the Death Star. Kind of like a play off of the Rogue One poster, Star Wars story. But this one is more of a movie, or more of a full series poster for Andor Season 2. It has pretty much every character. You got Cassian on here, Luthen, Rael, Bix Kayleen, Director Krennic, Mon Mothma, many key characters, K2SO, Saw Gerrera, Cyril Karn, Supervisor Deidre Miro, Vel Sartha. It's still got all of these characters superimposed over the looming Death Star, which is a kind of like a background that's going on within this this timeline. And then also Shadow of the Rebel Base on Yavin 4, which we've seen in the trailer, which is pretty cool to know that we are going to go back to Yavin 4 and maybe see how the Rebels came about finding Yavin 4 as a base of operations. On the ground of the poster, you got TIE fighters screaming through the skies over a small group of stormtroopers. They're walking through that field of grain in front of an ominous plume of smoke. Can't really see that from this photo, but that's kind of the lower portion of the poster. And that planet was also seen in the trailer. Disney has also released, I watched this today, a special look at the forthcoming season. It's about a 2-minute long special look, and it does give a little bit of extra content, and it has that glimpse of season 2. Again, you get to see a little bit more of some of that TIE fighter. There's a lot of extra clips of that TIE fighter to kind of see what it looks like. And it looks really awesome. So don't know what the name of that TIE fighter is yet. It does look like a nod to me from the TIE Fighter series game that came out, the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, or Star Wars TIE Fighter, whatever you want to call it, with that TIE Avenger that was in there. So it really does look like the TIE Avenger to me. And we'll see what the name of this one is going to be. But yeah, a lot of really cool little extra clips here and there of Andor, a little bit more tease, talking about the character development and where we're going with this series. So can't wait for that. We only got about a month now for Andor season 2 to come out, so really looking forward to that. But that is actually it for tonight. So not much really going on in the Star Wars world this week. A couple, a little bit more releases, but not too much coming out. Really just anticipating, building the intensity, building the anticipation for Star Wars Celebration Japan, where hopefully we're going to get some just amazing, inspiring Star Wars content, I'm sure, and a little bit more information on Andor season 2 as we lead up to that release, and basically as it's releasing that week of Star Wars Celebration. So can't wait for that. It's just mind-boggling to think that I'm going to be in Japan for this, which is just insane. That is it for this evening. Thank you. I saw a couple people join in this evening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this later, again, this is Space Oats Live, a Star Wars podcast. I am the Crucial Crew member. Until next time, until next week, remember to do something Star Wars. Watch some Star Wars, listen to some Star Wars, read some Star Wars, play some Star Wars, do something Star Wars. But most importantly, whatever you're doing, may the stars light your way. Have a great night. I'll see you next week.